Welcome to Business Casual. I am Mihae An, your host and author of The Stories We Tell and Perfectly Incomplete. Business Casual brings you unfiltered conversations with badass, inspiring, highly accomplished women. I am passionate about and believe in the power of sharing stories, our authentic, raw, incomplete stories, getting beyond the polished LinkedIn profiles to the real humans behind the titles. My guest today is Sharla. Her career path is anything but linear. From beginning her university journey without a clear direction to earning a degree in nursing, navigating a challenging job market, and ultimately stepping into executive leadership. Her story is a powerful example of courage, adaptability, and growth. What I appreciate most about Sharla is her grounded honesty about uncertainty, her willingness to say yes to opportunities, and her thoughtful reflections on leadership and life. Today's conversation explores the unexpected turns that shape a meaningful career. Some key takeaways from our discussion include: career clarity is often discovered through exploration, not certainty at the start. Saying yes to opportunities, even when they feel outside your plan, can open doors you never anticipated. Servant leadership must be balanced with clear boundaries and accountability to build healthy, high-performing teams. Please enjoy this insightful and reflective conversation with Sharla about embracing uncertainty, navigating career transitions, and leading with both heart and responsibility. Hi, Sharla. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. It is so good to see you again.
Wonderful to see you too. Thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Yes, yeah, thank you for being here. To get started, it would be great to hear your journey a little bit, um,
Mhm.
who you are, where you are in
Mhm.
your professional journey and life journey, so
Mhm.
our audience get to know you.
Of course, thank you. Well, I guess I'll just start with the present and then just sort of, jump back to give context. Right now, I am working as Chief Administrative Officer at Securian Canada. So my role is operational executive leadership. I have a number of wonderful senior leaders reporting to me and a very large contingency of employees across operational departments and functions, wonderful people, incredibly skilled. I feel so privileged that my career is taking me to a place where I have this incredible opportunity to lead so many people and connect and share. So, really focus on business is my current sort of paradigm or work. But I do originally come from a background in science, and sort of I think we talked a little bit about this when we first met. And it is a curious journey as it is, and it's interesting to take a moment and reflect back on one's life and one's career. But in a nutshell, I went into university at the University of Windsor from Ontario, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just knew that I was going to university because that's what my parents expected, and I guess I expected it of myself. It just sort of felt like there was a relatively narrow pathway of choices, and that was it. So I went into university not knowing how I would, shape my career. I really wasn't sure, and I spent a year, just dabbling in philosophy and sciences and psychology, and I took Japanese language. I was all over the place. And eventually I realized, I need to kind of pick a focus because I want to graduate and I want to be independent and make money and have a life, right? So I leaned into nursing, which is kind of hilarious. My mom and many of my aunts were nurses. But they all kind of used it as a means to something else. So my mother would always leave for work in heels and a briefcase. And albeit she was a nurse, so to me, it meant that nursing meant something else. And she herself had gone into healthcare administration and further education. So yeah, I did a 4-year undergrad, a Bachelor of Science honors in nursing. And then that was sort of the late 90s, and there wasn't a lot of work in Ontario for nurses. So I up and left with my boyfriend at the time, who'd also been in nursing with me and is now my husband of whatever, something like 25 years. But we traveled. We lived and worked in the United States for 10 years, primarily in California, with a couple of pit stops in Florida and Arizona. And in a nutshell, we spent the majority of our time in Los Angeles. And during that period, I actually bridged into disability case management, working for an insurer and kind of learning how to use nursing clinical expertise to manage claims that were part of workers' compensation in California. And these were sort of catastrophic like claims, like quite serious claims. And I learned a tremendous amount on the job doing that. And I mean, I have, wonderful leaders throughout giving me opportunities. And my boss at the time, her name was Arit Harrington. We're still connected on LinkedIn. She gave me that opportunity like 2.5 years into clinical nursing and labor and delivery, and she hires me to be a case manager. And so kind of the rest was history. I mean, it sort of went into, I did that for 8 years. My husband now, we got married there, we had our son, and 18 years ago, we moved back to Canada with our baby, and I re-entered into the disability industry in Ontario, my first real job in Canada because I left, and I ended up working my way sort of, up the ladder, so to speak. I started as a disability specialist, here, and then I moved into a role with Morneau Chappelle, which became LifeWorks, and I spent almost 12 years there, hired as a manager and leaving as a senior VP. And then 3 years later, I've spent the time learning and growing in the insurance industry. So it's been kind of this really interesting journey and this wild ride and just full of wonderful opportunities, and I just never said no. I just kept saying yes, and I guess in looking back, I think I had courage that I didn't even know I had. I just sort of felt like, I'll try it. What's the worst that can happen? And here I am.
Thank you so much. That is really exciting journey you've had, and what is very much resonating. There are many that you said that is resonating. One was, university. Everyone is going to universities, post-secondary education. So I will go and try it out without having that certain destination in mind or path in mind.
Yeah.
We have quite a rigorous internship program here at ProServe IT where I work, and many interns ask that question. I believe that I have heard that I don't know what I want to do, to be honest. Like there are many things that I'm interested in that I want to learn and explore, but I don't really know. And what I have shared so far is that it's okay to not know.
Yes.
In a way, that's a good thing in
It's a
this
wonderful thing.
age.
Yeah, it's creative. It allows for so much more creativity. And I think times have changed. I mean, okay, so I'm a mother of a wonderful young man. My son Max, he is in a gap year and he will be going to school next year. He's been accepted to a school and he's going to play baseball as well. But from a career perspective, I think times are very different now. And I feel like perhaps a few decades ago when I was entering into a post-secondary space, it was more focused. It was, there's nursing and there's sort of engineering and teaching and public service and various, and perhaps business at the time that for some reason wasn't really a part of my sort of lexicon of opportunity, but it felt more narrow and it felt rather focused. And I think now, and if there's something I've learned, first of all, most careers take all kinds of twists and turns. Probably the most interesting ones do. That's not to say that if you have a passion and you follow it, it can't just be incredible, which is wonderful, but I just think that's much more rare. I think it's more realistic to expect to take a lot of, sometimes risks and see where it gets you. And not every single one of my choices kind of worked out, but then again, when sort of a door opens or closes, another opens elsewhere. And so I think I'm really grateful for all of those opportunities, because you just are, as long as you keep an open mind and follow, your own sort of value set, I feel like there's wonderful opportunities to see how you can connect with others and contribute meaningfully.
Want to take your perspective on this, Sharla. Um, you mentioned that you kept saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that you had courage that you didn't even know that
Mm-hmm.
you had.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, what I have been thinking about is I do believe in the same mindset too. I believe I have said yes to most things that presented in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
be- especially because early on in my career, that luxury didn't really exist for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I operated from the space of lack. Like
Mm, yes.
everything was lacking. Maybe it was just my perspective, not perception, not like real reality,
Yeah.
but I operated from that place. And as my career was progressing, more things were presented to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not want to say no to any of them,
Yeah.
being afraid of
Mm.
going back to that place of lack.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
such a,
now, where
yeah.
I am in my current journey, is that there are many things, too many things to say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, when you don't prioritize to say yes to everything, then you are in a way saying no to certain things.
Right.
Because you can only do so much as one human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, like, how what do I do now? Like here, thinking about my next chapter or however we phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on that based on your experience?
Right. Wow, that's such a, what a wonderful, in a way, yet overwhelming problem it would be to have so many opportunities to choose from, number one. So I'll start from a place of privilege and gratefulness that my life, and as you've explained, your experiences to have these opportunities, how incredible for people, for women, for like just the opportunity presenting itself is a privilege. And so I just kind of want to make space for that. I also really appreciate this perspective, this lack versus abundance, philosophy. And it's quite, I'm seeing it in reading and postings. There's a lot of, this concept is a really interesting one. I think it is about perspective, obviously. I think a lot of it is how we see the world. And when you see the world from a place of lack, or from scarcity, or to reach and grab onto something, and that fear of letting go, I think sometimes that in and of itself is such a barrier. At the same time, when you have a lot of choice, I mean, you do have to be discerning. You have to kind of have I guess having a very clear sense of your own values and of intention and purpose is important. And it's funny, I had a conversation with my almost 18-year-old about purpose a few weeks ago. And I'm like, well, what's your purpose? Like, I was just trying to have this, like, God love me for trying to have this conversation with a 17-year-old boy. But, it kind of was interesting, because I'm like, he's like, well, what's your purpose, Mom? And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm working on my purpose. I'm trying to kind of clarify what it is I'm doing to contribute meaningfully to society, and just what am I making of my own life. To me, that's my purpose, and it's connection, and it's lifting others up, and all of those kinds of tenets of servant leadership are really my jam. And he's like, well, that's not really your purpose. Like, that's just what you do. And so I'm like, well, maybe, perhaps there's different views on what purpose actually is. But I think if you think about that concept of lack and abundance, of how you want to live your life, and we all have an opportunity, like, our lives are a gift, and we're grateful for these opportunities. And I know that there's difficulties, and I'm not just always cup half full, although I probably tend to come from more of an abundance mindset, and I feel When I say I never said no, I was fortunate. Was I maybe lucky to have opportunities? Sure. There's a lot of things in my life that set me up for opportunity, and I recognize that, but I also believe that these were thoughtful yeses. They were yeses made from weighing pros and cons. And one example is I took a role, and I only stayed for like 3 months, which was probably my shortest stint ever in a role. But I took a leap working for a mining company when I was in the middle of my disability management career, and I was weighing that against another opportunity, and it was a hard choice to make. I made the choice. Ultimately, would I say it was the wrong choice? Probably, because I ended up going to the other company eventually, which was Morneau Chappelle. But that 3 months showed me a different way, different people, a different industry, a different experience. I made something of the role. I contributed meaningfully. I realized after a few months it probably wasn't the right path, but I did take a bit of a risk. And that's just to give an example that every yes doesn't always end up as a long-term job or as a career stepping stone. Maybe it was just what I needed in that moment. And as long as you take something away from each experience, I think that's important.
That such binary thinking humans tend to subscribe to, right?
Yeah.
This or that,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
yeah, it is gonna be amazing opportunity, or I'm gonna fail miserably. But life is not really black and white.
Yes.
Yeah, so
You know, that concept of binary thinking, it makes me think about a conversation I had with someone very wise recently. And of course, there's a very like thoughtful name for this philosophy of holding two very different things at one time, like almost polar ideas or concepts, and acting on them in your life at the same time. And that's become almost like a theme for me recently, like as I've kind of making life sort of transitions and, moving into perhaps next chapters of my own journey, learning to hold two different, like almost opposing concepts in my mind at once. Um, it's a challenge, but it speaks to that concept of like we want to oversimplify sometimes because for humans that makes it easier maybe, or makes us like if we can just lock into this idea or this path and that's the way, maybe that even connects to a little bit of that scarcity, like this is the way and this is the way I choose. But life, being a human, and in my experience, sort of leading from a place of humanity means trying to be open to other perspectives, even when those are my own, even when I say something to the effect of, you know, this is more of a personal example, but loving or caring deeply for someone, but recognizing that the relationship may not be healthy, and the creation of boundaries is so important. And I mean that can be applied to many different scenarios and not just to a relationship with one person, but that concept of loving but distance or space for one's personal health and wellness and well-being can live in one place at one time. So that's a little bit of an offshoot, but it's just a concept when you spoke to this concept of binary thinking that, has kind of realized itself in my life lately.
yes, that is the theme for my upcoming book, actually.
Mm,
The yeah,
interesting.
sitting with the paradoxes, sitting with that ambiguity
Mhm.
that life brings us. That is, yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I love that.
a lot about that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So with that, another question, please. Servant
Mhm.
leadership that you
Yeah.
mentioned. That's one of the things that I have been thinking about,
Mhm.
uh, along with this binary thinking perspective. So,
Mhm.
servant leadership is quite commonly these days
Mhm.
talked about. There are many things about servant leadership that I definitely agree with and subscribe to and try to live, that the values that servant leadership talk about. At the same time, when do we cross the line
Mhm.
of giving, 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 giving as a leader, where the accountability comes in. How do we have that conversation better while caring for that individual? And yeah, when does it become too much
Mm,
of leaders just serving,
right.
and which can create the, what is the word that I'm looking for? Taking things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Love that concept. Okay, oh my gosh, this is like my favorite topic ever. um, so, okay, let me start with from my own experience, and I say this with so much vulnerability, like this is something I've had to learn and I'm still learning. So I think we're all on a lifelong journey to learn, and it's great. It's amazing. It's so awesome. In fact, when I learn something new, I'm like, oh my God, like that's so brilliant. How the hell at 51 did I not, whatever, really like see this before, but it's brilliant. I think that to the boundaries piece, when you are leading other people, when you are nurturing other people, or just connecting, being vulnerable and bringing one's total authentic self to the experience, as much as that's obviously talked about as really important and really beneficial, we have to be thoughtful about a healthy personal boundary. And like boundaries are a real big theme, I think, for a lot of people. And a lot of us learn that setting a personal boundary or a professional boundary is critical. And often we learn that the hard way. So that's reality, and that's okay. I think that as a leader and as a subscriber to the concept of servant leadership, to role model healthy boundaries to those you are leading is the essence of servant leadership. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything you do is just to serve the needs of others, but it's that you are leaning into enabling them to you are serving people in a nurturing and enabling way that creates a healthy dynamic for both of you, or the team, or the community, or whomever you're leading through. And that can be difficult, but it's not just about providing what people need. Sometimes it's about saying what you're looking for in this experience or in this moment. What you are asking for is not perhaps reasonable, or I can't give you that, but what I can give you is consider a different perspective, or let's look at this a different way. So I think it's just about, I think it comes with experience, and I think self-reflection is very, very important. Stopping to actually notice how interactions go, and being really honest with yourself, and knowing when, as a leader, you're responding in a servant leadership interaction, like knowing that you're responding from a place of your own, sometimes baggage or trauma or whatever, and kind of, even when it happens, forgiving yourself, maybe calling that out, maybe saying, hey, in that interaction we had, I responded a certain way, and that was more about me than you. But let's use this to learn together about how to move forward so that I can enable you better and you can sort of serve the mission better, whatever. So I just think there's a lot of, I think we're at a really profound moment, and this opportunity to just be very honest and truthful, and not to take us down another path, but we're at this real precipice of change in humanity, and the uncertainty and all of the things, along with obviously AI and everything that's going to bring to humanity. I think it's really more important now than ever before to be very, very honest and truthful with who we are and the impact we have on others. As a constantly evolving and learning and growing leader, I hope I can continue to be very honest and help and role model that for others. And in doing so, I can learn to protect myself while also, giving. That's kind of that's my goal.
Yeah, thank you for that. Um, yeah, I have been thinking a lot about this. When the all about giving, that the servant leadership is going on one side. On the other side, we see this quote unquote leadership or that authority
Mm-hmm.
being totally misused as well, right? And so
Yeah.
how do we balance things and
Mm-hmm.
trying to, yeah. So
Yeah.
I
It's
think
tough,
it's
isn't it?
a topic.
It's for those who can remember that being a leader or being in a position of leadership is a privilege. And I think that maybe is the core essence of servant leadership, is remembering that it's not for the power of control or authority, and it's the privilege of being able to, enable others to do something really meaningful. That if we can remember that, it won't stop the hierarchy of power and the underbelly of power and whatnot, but the power structure, as it were. But yeah, I think that's important. And if that's a message that I can, leave to listeners, or those with whom I'm leading and connecting, and my colleagues, I mean, these are things that we talk about a lot, and I like to keep the conversation going, because I think that's the only way. There's so much wonderful information and sharing on LinkedIn going on around this concept, and I can't get enough of it right now. And I'm really engaged by this conversation around this.
I believe I heard multiple times gratitude and privilege, the concept of that
Mhm.
from you, which is just so amazing and inspiring. What I noticed when we first met and throughout our even just email communications and throughout today's conversation, Charlotte, you look very much relaxed with just life,
Mhm.
not what is the word that I'm looking for? Like tight or
Mhm.
everything needs to be like urgent or
Mhm.
yeah, the place of lack, any of those I witness with you. And I keep hearing privilege, gratitude, and so on. So I'm making the correlation there myself in my head.
Mhm.
Maybe that is one of the reasons why the way you show up is the
Mhm.
way you show up. Um, have you heard of that from other people? Like how you present yourself in certain ways? Yeah.
I have. Well, thank you, like, for saying that to me. I mean, that's giving me pause. I think people that have known me my whole life are probably like, wow, like that's progress. Because let's be clear, there's been moments where I've been wound up tighter than a drum, and I can and am very type A. However, I guess where I'm at now in my life is a result of a tremendous amount of self-reflection and, sort of truth seeking in who I am. And so I'm grateful for that feedback. Thank you. I do think, and I do hear more from, and I'm starting to really embrace and acknowledge my own sort of social power or energy. That's sort of the way that my lovely executive coach Rick has shared with me, is the concept of social power or influence, and understanding how that comes off. So that's been actually something I've learned a lot in the last 3 years, is that how does my energy, I can bring a lot of energy to a room. It's just sort of my natural state. It's my emotional state. I sort of wear my emotions on my sleeve, and that's just who I am. But I am much more cognizant and aware of how that energy might be received by different audience and by different people. So I just try to be thoughtful about that. And I never want to assume that someone's ready for me to like come in hot with emotions, or hugs, as it were, albeit some of my favorite people that call themselves robots have come to love my big warm hugs. That's just part of the nature of who I am. So I guess I am starting to hear this feedback. Maybe people feel a comfort in my own ability to resonate with my energy, and to be more calm in who I am and where I'm at in my life. And yeah, I think again, it's a journey. There's so much to learn, but I have heard that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you called that out because it is probably the biggest part of my sort of purpose that I'm really building on right now.
I believe the identity that I associated myself with
Mhm.
proudly was that um, how much I can grind,
Mhm.
how much shit I can get done,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
intensity that I bring.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and more and more, I've been thinking last few years, is that something that I want to continue to carry on as it was,
Mhm.
as I continue to age and mature, or something else needs to be compensating that? Like, uh, so
Yeah.
I've been thinking
Yeah.
quite about.
Well, that's certainly a common theme, and I think for not just women or female leaders, but it's certainly a common, it's a thread. This concept of taking on more and more and doing, perhaps there's a subconscious piece there where that's how we show value. And in some cases, that's how we've been conditioned to think of our value as how much can we produce and do and how efficient can we get. It might be part of nature, part of nurture, part of the world and society as it were, but I think there's change there, and I definitely do think that as people grow and mature in season, you start to see that. You start to see, like, okay, hold on a moment here. Like, what is this all for? And why am I burning myself out? And what is the actual impact? Right. And I guess part of leadership and part of executive leadership, like tactically, is recognizing that you're not there to do it all. You're there to enable others to be their best selves and contribute to the goal. Right. So some of that is more like business tactical, but I think a lot of it just comes with life and the journey of experiencing the burnout itself, perhaps, or the realization. For me, that's been a biggie because I'm no different. I may come off relaxed at this point, but at many points in my professional career and personal life, I burnt myself out trying to do too much for too many people. And I now realize it's more quality of what I'm giving and my experience than it is the quantity or how much I get done.
Thinking a lot about this concept, and you know what? I think I want to put intentional effort
I love
into
it.
thinking more about this
Yeah.
in the new year. So that is the plan. And how timely is it having this
Mhm.
conversation with person like you, um, close to the end of year? Yeah.
Indeed. I think it's a wonderful goal. And, we can all use the opportunity of the new year to kind of reset and reflect on what's important. Life is short, and we have this one beautiful, privileged life to live. So live it in a way that feels great. We should be happy. In fact, that was what my 17-year-old did say to me. Mom, can't purpose just be to, live a happy life? And I'm like, oh, that's so refreshing. As a child of a boomer, no, you must work very, very hard and achieve all the things. But wow, that's a brand new perspective. And I just love it. I just love it. I'm learning from him, which is, incredible.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I
Yeah.
learned that my daughter is 7, like I showed you when we
Yeah.
met the picture. Yeah, I learn from her. Sometimes she says something like, "Wow."
Wise. They're so wise. Oh gosh, back to the privilege of being a parent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they teach you so much and you about life, themselves, yourself. That is to your original question, sort of, where am I now? And I think we had talked about, potential kind of questions like what would be my proudest achievement? And as much as leading and impacting others and connecting is so incredibly important to me, the most incredible achievement, if it were, in my life is my family. It's my marriage and it's my son. And honestly, my friendships, and I've had the same ones for many years, and some newer friendships, but wow, that's achievement to me. That's truly a blessing. And for those that, may feel lonely or disconnected, there's always an opportunity to connect and to create relationships. No one necessarily needs to feel like they're alone in this world, because everyone is experiencing it together.
Sharla, what is next for you?
Hmm. Well, I'm just looking forward to getting to the holidays and to the new year and a chance to rest and reflect. And I think that for me, I do feel like there's much more to come. And I feel excited and not quite sure. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being not quite sure. But I just feel excited, and with a mindset of abundance. I feel excited to talk to you again next year and see where we're at and what we can, talk about then, because I think there will be more.
That's another thing that I've been thinking quite about, that not knowing is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes trying to make things happen like with such force
Yes.
doesn't really lead to the outcome that we're looking for. Sometimes it is so contradictory, at least in my head,
Mm-hmm.
that because the values, the virtues that I believed in for so long was,
Mm-hmm.
you need to work super hard to get to somewhere. And what life is teaching me is that
Yes.
sometimes exactly not doing that will
Exact
help you get
opposite.
somewhere.
Wow, that's so wise, Mihai. That one is like, yeah, you can try and try and try to achieve whatever, or to meet a goal, and it's just not happening, and you're pushing so hard, and then eventually you just like, it's almost like you just let the wave just, and then all of a sudden the things fall where they should. And I mean, everyone has a different belief system, but I do believe in to some degree this kind of universal like energy sort of pulling us and or nudging us towards something. We, always have the autonomy to decide how we're going to do that. But sometimes if you believe in meditation or some quiet or self-reflection or that moment to stop, that's when the brilliance kind of happens, and you're like, oh, let me just like cruise on top of this. I act like I'm some sort of surfer person, not even close, but like cruise, like, in a lifeboat on top of the wave, and sort of see where it coasts up. And that's kind of exciting. And I'm embracing that much more than I ever did before. And sounds like you're considering that yourself. Yeah, it's an exciting. I really believe that part of life is the journey, and I'm learning to be more open and not to have to be assured of the outcome of everything.
What a privilege that I have to know you and have this conversation with you. My
Um,
gosh, the time flew. We need to wrap up, and I don't want to wrap up.
Thank you for having me. Those that know me well, and as you're learning, I could talk for hours. I do love to talk, especially when it's something that I'm passionate about, and to be able to be myself. And thank you for this opportunity. I was beyond excited, and such a compliment that you asked me to be part of this like beautiful thing you've created. And yeah, thank you. You have a wonderful energy, and your openness is just so refreshing. It's fantastic
Thank
to
you
know you.
very much. I'm very, very, very grateful for the relationship that we are building. Um, yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me and sharing your stories. And yeah, what a privilege, and how grateful I am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mihai.
Until next time. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember, you have more agency than you often realize. Choose your stories. I'll see you next time.